All right. What we're going to do the rest of this morning is we're going to build a test light. Okay. There are two types of test lights. You get test lights with bulbs in them, and they are called incandescent type. Thank you, Robert. Forgot the word. But we're going to build an LED type. The reason we're building an LED type light is that they don't draw almost no current, actually. So you can use them on electronic components. If you try and use an incandescent or a normal bulb type of test light on electronics, the bulb draws so much current that it will actually damage, potentially it will damage the electronic componentry. So we're going to build an LED one, and then we can use it on anything we like. Okay? Can I have a show of hands? Who has not done soldering before? Who hasn't used a soldering iron? Yeah, be honest, it's okay. So most of you have, 2 of you haven't. We'll just see how well that pans out at the end of the day. Right. The wiring diagram for this is up on the board here. We have a probe here, okay, which isn't pointed at this point, okay? You'll sharpen them up when you go into the workshop later on. We have on the end of the probe a diode, the LED, light emitting diode. What do we know about diodes, guys? Anybody?
Stop the current from going the other way.
They will only allow current to go in one way. So it's crucial that you put the LED onto the probe the right way round. When you have a look at an LED, it has 2 legs, okay? 1, 2. And one is longer than the other. The long one is the positive side, which is the side that goes onto the probe. And what I do, just so I don't get them confused, I bend the positive one at right angles to the LED. That way I always know that that's positive. Okay? So that's our first 2 components, the LED there. Then we're going to put a 1K resistor in the circuit, simply to stop us blowing up the LED bulb. And then we're going to put a length of wire on with a crocodile clip on the end. Okay? Easy, it's not complicated. So I'm going to demonstrate you how to build it, and then you are all just going to get on and do it. Any questions?
So what's a 1K resistor? How much does it resist?
Sorry?
How much does it resist?
It's a kilo ohm.
Kilo.
A kilo ohm. That's a kilo's 1,000, isn't it? 1,000 ohms resistance, which is enough to stop us damaging the LED, but not so much that it's going to take all the current.
It just causes a volt drop across itself so that voltage doesn't go to the diode.
All right, so we have our probe, we have our LED, which is our 1K resistor. What else do we need here? A length of wire and a crocodile clip. And that's all we need. And some shrink wrap, which we'll get to shortly. Now you'll notice on these components, the resistor and the LED, the legs, what we call the legs, the metal parts, are really, really long. Okay, we're going to cut them down, because if we try and connect 2 components together like that, it's just pretty ugly. Okay, so we're just going to chop them down to a sensible length. Okay, can everybody see that on the video? So much more sensible. You'll end up with a stronger unit at the end of the day. And there we go. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tin all the parts. Does anybody not know what tinning is? I see a few people shaking their heads there. Tinning is where we put some solder on all the components, so that when we try and connect them together, the components we're trying to join are already got solder on them. So all we're doing is melting the 2 pieces of solder together, instead of trying to connect the components and melt the solder in, and you get a much, much stronger joint at the end of the day. And probably the key thing about soldering is you need to be fairly quick with it, because if you hold these components on the soldering iron too long, you get a lot of heat generated inside the componentry and it will damage them. Okay, and these probes that we're using, it's basically a brass piece of brazing rod. It's and you'll get a lot of heat build up in there. You will actually burn your hand off these 40-watt soldering irons. And the other thing is that if you get too much heat in the rod, it will hold the heat and stop the solder from going hard again. It will keep the solder liquid, and then you won't be able to join the two components together. So don't let things get too hot. You have to work fairly quickly. Use the solder and make sure that there's some heat in the soldering iron. Then I'm just going to turn this around so that it's actually easier to use. What we need to do is just put the component on the soldering iron and just run the solder along it like that. That's all you need to do, is that quick, okay? Nice and quick. Soldering irons are really hot, don't burn your fingers. There we go, and that's tinned. Same with the resistor. It's already got quite hot. It was only on there for a fraction of a second. Just blow on it, cool it down a little. Now this rod, you need to get some heat into it in order for the solder to stick, but you don't want to get so much in there that it won't cool down quickly. You don't want to burn your hands. I'm just turning it around and around. And there we go. Okay. Now we've got a length of wire, which I'm just going to strip back. And again, we're just going to tin that off like that. If you hold the wire on there too long, it will melt the green insulator off of the wire. It makes the job quite untidy and it's not good practice. So you need to be fairly quick doing this. Like so. Now the clip, the crocodile clip, the easiest way I've found to do this is to actually hold the clip in a pair of pliers, and you'll see, can you see the hole inside the clip there?
Yeah, hang on.
See there's a hole there? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is put it on the soldering iron, and then I'm going to feed the solder through the hole. Once it starts melting, then I'm going to go up and down the inside of there, alright? Get some heat into it first. And you can see clearly there, I've got a nice lot of solder in place, okay? That's the easiest way I've found, because otherwise the heat generated goes through the clip so quickly, it actually burns your fingers. So, okay. So now we need to start putting some stuff together. So first thing, I'm going to work from the probe back to the crocodile clip. You can just as equally work the other way if you want to, it's up to you. So that's my positive one there, the one I bent at right angles. And I'm just going to touch them on there and lift them off and then blow on them, holding them together. And then I'm going to give them a pull, because quite often, and I think it's the case with this one, they don't actually stick properly. So I just give them a pull, and that one wasn't stuck. There we go, nice and tight, give it a good yank. Now's the time to give it a good yank, because if you don't, it will fall apart on you later if it's not right, okay? So that's quite firm there. Now we're going to put the resistor onto the other side. And always try and work comfortably. If the soldering iron's not in the right place and you kind of twist it up, move the soldering iron to a place that's comfortable for you. I'm showing you a way of doing this, it's not the only way by far. So whatever works for you, okay? Again, join the two pieces together by melting the two solders. lifting it off and blowing on it. Because what we're actually doing, of course, is making the solder a liquid and then joining it while it's a liquid and blowing on it to make it a solid again, cooling it down. Okay? Then we need to join those to the wire. Put the solder on that. Okay.
Beautiful, mate.
At that point, I need you to test it, okay? Because if you've got the LED on the wrong way around, now is the time to find out before we start covering it up. There is a small battery around on the table, will it? Now, because it's an LED, it should only work one way. So this is our positive side with the probe, and this is our negative side. Negative on there, and if I touch that side on the red, it should work. And it's not.
No, it's working. It was working.
Was it working?
Yeah, it was working.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is working.
Let me just
That
get a
was
shot
good.
of
That was
that.
going to be a bit embarrassing for a minute there. Okay? Got that?
Yeah, there.
Good. So, now the next thing we have to do is we need to cover all this soldering up that we've done before we put the crocodile clip on. We need to solder all this stuff up. Hide all this and insulate it. And we're going to do that with a product called shrink wrap. Has anybody not heard of shrink wrap before? Everyone's heard of shrink wrap? You all know what it does? Cool. What we're going to do, we're going to cut just enough shrink wrap so that, just straighten that out, so that it will cover all the solder joints, right down to the green wire, okay? Right up to the edge of the LED, okay? So we only need that much, it's not a great deal. And we're going to slide that up, right up to the LED like that. This is 5mm stuff, it's P5B are the last three digits. And this one is P7B, so that's 7mm. Grab a lighter, and we're just going to heat that up. And they've used all the gas in my lighter. Anybody got a lighter, please? That's right. And we're just going to keep moving it slowly along there. Don't hold the lighter in one place, particularly under the solder. If you do, the lighter is hot enough to melt the solder again. Okay? So you need to just keep moving it along, nice and gently.
And as you heat it up, it'll shrink, eh, Bob?
Yep, there you go.
One of the few times that things will shrink when you heat them. Usually they shrink when you make them cold.
And you can see quite plainly that's got a lot smaller, and that's actually stuck on there now, alright? And what I've done, I've insulated one side from the other. They can't touch anymore. Very important they don't touch, because we end up with a dead short to earth. Once we've done that, we need some 7mm shrink wrap. Again, just enough so it covers the whole thing, up to the top of the LED. And then we're going to fold this wire back up itself like that, okay, so the wire comes out at the top. Now you don't have to, you can have it coming out of the bottom if you prefer it that way. We've built these a few times now, and I've found that to be the tidiest way to do it and the easiest way to use the light at the end of the day. Alright. We slide our shrink wrap over the whole lot, the 7mm shrink wrap, it's slightly larger, all the way up to the LED like that. And then once again, just heat it nice and evenly. Don't keep it in one place for too long, because it will either set fire to the shrink wrap, or the solder inside will come undone. Okay. Now, that's that end. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to connect the clip to the wire here. Now when we do this, I've already tinned both parts, and what we need to do is solder it in so that the green insulator is actually underneath these clips here, because that's going to grip it and hold it in place as well.
Show them again.
Okay, so we're going to put it in far enough so that the green wire is under those the pointy things there, and I'll show you in a minute why. And again, the easiest way I found to do this is actually to hold the crocodile clip in pliers.
Don't forget your condom.
Oh yeah, don't forget your condom. Never forget your condom. That's what, can't get it on over the top. And then we're going to heat that up and solder it in place. I'm just going to put a little bit more solder in there. And you can quite clearly see in there that it's nicely soldered. Hopefully. You see?
Yeah.
Now, what I'm going to do now is just clamp that in there, like that, so that it's on the green, preferably over the green insulator, the plastic insulator. It's not essential, but it's just, again, good practice to do that. It holds it tighter, firmer, and the whole job will last you a lot longer. Slide our condom over the top. He said? Yeah, Robert knows how to do these. He showed me the other day. What you do is you actually clip that on there and then it slides over easy.
Oh, you need pliers.
Okay. And there we have a completed test light. And we'll sharpen it up when we go down in the workshop on the grindstone. Any questions? Easy, eh? Now, some of you will find this really easy. Others of you will find it very difficult to master the soldering part of it. It's okay. It's a bit like welding. It's a learnt art. Some of you think you can solder. We'll just find out how many of you are actually as good as you think you are. But there's plenty of time. We've got till lunchtime to do the exercise. So I'm going to leave this soldering iron on here, guys. I'm going to leave this soldering iron on here so somebody can come and use this one. And there are plenty of other soldering irons around as well.